And I think the film suggests something very profound but quite simple, which is that growing up, as Mija has to do during the young girl in the course of this quest, encountering the world and all its banality, the film suggests that we don't have to become corrupt, we don't have to become cynical, we don't have to give up on love, we don't have to give up on nature.
Are you sure about this, Tilda?
I am 100% sure.
Good.
We really, really don't.
Okja is truly the definition of an international film, as was Bong Joon Ho's previous feature, Snowpiercer, if you ever got to watch that. But with this one, he expands boundaries, not only within the frame, but outside of it. Sure, it may seem like a gritty reboot of Babe, but within that Holocaust setting that they put this pig in comes themes of capitalism, animal cruelty, activism, translations, and what I feel is most important, balance. It's a Netflix original that anyone can watch and decide whether it's their strip of bacon or not, but for those who haven't seen it, let me give you a quick breakdown before I explain my thoughts on it. So the main plot revolves around the Miranda Corporation, which seems to be a play on the real-life agrochemical company Monsanto and all of their hormones. Like the Monsanto Corporation, Miranda also has a bad rep that stems from a greedy CEO to his greedy son, then his greedy daughter, and now her twin who vows to make a difference. Her big plan for this is to turn the company around by helping save the world's hunger problem and creating this super pig. She plans to make 26 of them in a lab and then send them out to 26 countries to test out their environments, and after 10 years determine which one has the best conditions to set up shop for the billions of super pigs they're about to create. What they tell the world though is that they just so happen to discover this magical pig, and there's no GMOs to worry about, which certain groups are already ready to expose. It's on that 10th year that we get to meet Mija, who just so happens to be the farm girl who raised one of the super pigs in South Korea, who is named Okja. They have a beautiful relationship consisting of pooping out in the open that gets clogged when the Miranda Corporation comes to take the pig away. This sets Mija on an adventure to get her best friend back. She comes across a group of activists known as the Animal Liberation Federation who say they're gonna help her. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a TV personality who gets caught up doing jacked up things to the pigs, which then exposes the company. And after a bunch of international chase sequences from Korea to New York, Mija is able to bargain to the greedy CEO in order to buy back Okja, and does, living happily ever after. Even though thousands of Okja's relatives are dying on the daily. But what's the point?
Is eating meat immoral?
Oh.
No.
So what is the message of the
The
movie?
treatment of creatures, the treatment of each other, the dismissal of connection, the fear of connection, the terror to connect, and our desperate need somewhere as a culture to find success in convention, to find success in capitalism, as opposed to success is when we connect, when we are seeing each other and hearing each other and respecting each other.
Contrary to what some people may believe, the movie isn't explicitly telling you to go vegan or go kosher.
I ain't Jewish, I just don't dig on swine, that's all.
But it is trying to shine a light on the mistreatment of animals and how that reflects the mistreatment that spreads to other humans as well, because the idea is that if we can't respect what we ourselves are putting into our own bodies, how fickle then is our respect for others? The actors themselves aren't vegans, and Bong himself has stated he's no activist, but they are using the movie to bring about a debate on the subject. A non-gluten, dairy-free, halal debate that's very relevant during this organic revolution. Because look, we've all been to the store and have noticed that companies are really pushing those non-GMO labels even when they're not really necessary. Or even worse, using that and having a workaround in order to play on this trend for business, which people end up falling for thinking they're doing something for a good cause. And that leads us to activism, the side of it which does get political, especially in the movie when you have literal visual homages to administrations. But the thing is, Bong doesn't set out to make all of the ALF members, the activists in the movie, to be these saints, because he shows that they lie too. What's probably the funniest and most ironic scene is the clip where the activists say they come in peace while holding guns in people's faces. A passive-aggressive, almost entitled action where they want peace, but, you know, not really, and if anything bad happens, it's your fault, you made me do it. Something that we've seen a lot from protests throughout the years that have happened recently. But what makes Bong's portrayal so fascinating is that he's showing that there's not much of a difference between the greedy CEOs and the self-righteous activists who are fighting against them. That there's just a thread that separates them both from being hypocrites when they're blinded by the other side. When you realize that the path to righteousness has somehow become intolerance, where you want peace, but ironically, refuse to accept anyone who doesn't agree with your definition of it.
I think that feelings are important to have, and always, no matter what they are. It's when you deny those feelings that's a different thing. It's when you act on feelings is when there are repercussions.
On the flip side of activism is the side of capitalism, something that we've seen before in movies and isn't too hard to paint as evil, but what Bong does is shine a light on it, or more so a mirror that reflects ourselves. Because we're the reason for it. We accept the big businesses because it makes things more convenient. It makes life a little bit easier. We take advantage of it even when we don't even realize it. Like people live streaming a protest about work conditions on an iPhone. What it always comes down to is greed. Not just from the head CEOs, which we always love to blame, but us as the consumers, the ones who always want more and more and more. And just like the movie portrays the two sides of capitalism through the twin sisters, it ultimately shows that it doesn't matter what perspective you have on it, they both still lead to the same goal, because there's no balance.
Capitalism makes it very easy to not think about what we're putting in our mouths or what we're buying, what we're consuming. And we don't become thinking beings, we become consumers. We're constantly being told that we're consumers.
This is what I believe is the key to life, learning to balance. And Bong displays this in the movie with the way that he covers both extremes of the activists and the businessmen, showing a sort of satire of them, showing both their flaws and what he ultimately called them in an interview, pathetic characters. He balances between a style of Korean cinema and its locations, and the Hollywood budget set pieces in New York, the struggle of making a film that's trying to say something and have substance, while still aiming to be entertaining.
Which is why also I would add, I think, just speaking for myself, that the platform of a film, how far it can reach, and to how many people it can get to communicate a message is extraordinarily important. And I think it's truly a blessing when any art gets to reach one person, let alone hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And particularly in today's day and age, when we are inundated with information, sometimes true, sometimes not, that we get the artistic expression in whatever form that we can. And I think that debate is essential always. It's what makes art so incredible. It's what makes the world so incredible. So it's a wonderful thing to have this discussion about how art is perceived and how it is distributed. It is essential to continuing this form forever.
For those who don't know, Okja was a pretty big deal at Cannes due to the fact that it was a Netflix movie, meaning it would have an initial streaming release, which some cinephiles and ultimately the grand jury decided was against the art of cinema, and thus movies like it were ineligible for the big prize. And it's here where I think the biggest display of balance is shown by Bong, a man who doesn't mind losing an award in order to be revolutionary and get his vision out there. Take his last film, Snowpiercer, whose release was screwed over by the Weinstein Company to the point that there are countries like the UK who have yet to see this movie because there's no DVD release date. And that was following the model that the grand jury expected him to do. So then take Netflix, who not only guaranteed the release to millions of already established subscribers, but is also willing to give him $50 million to make this crazy movie he wanted with little to no interference. That's a model that's not only awesome, but may just be the way of the future for cinema. Ironically though, the problem of consumption still stands, because whether it went to theaters and even with its Netflix debut, movies like these get lost within the mass releases. And that exemplifies the biggest theme in Okja: us as consumers. People who just consume, and move on to the next thing before we've even let a project that someone worked years on actually resonate. And as a film lover, I can't help but see the metaphor of the Morando company being just the bad side of Hollywood, who's scoping out foreign markets to mass-produce products, to bombard us with excess as the consumers ourselves ask for more and more without question. There's definitely a lot of other metaphors you can portray this to in a society that just wants and demands more and more, but it's not a landscape that I think will change anytime soon. But I can hope that amongst all of it, we find our Okja that makes us go the distance.